So hopefully this works. How do I see if it's working? Oh, there we go. Yeah. So it looks like it's recording the sound. All right. So I'll just go over it one more time. So check the email I sent you guys. If you go to whatever the last couple emails I sent, the very bottom, TA construction help -1, it should be in whatever I sent around. And even in the latest TA session email from 4:59 p.m. Thursday, 10/5, at the very bottom, it should be attached. TA construction help. So download that, and then this is where we're going to start. So here, I'll have a, let's see. So I'm going to try and index this thing. I don't know. So is there a way to see how long time's elapsed on this? There we go. So I'll just send chats to myself. Let's see what happens. Which time? Yeah, there we go. So maybe it's been like 90 seconds already? I don't know. Figure it out. All right, so now we're going to start on, I guess we'll just go over what the next assignment is. So you guys did assumptions in time and technical. So up next is construction and then operations, right? That's what the next two assignments are. So this is construction, and then this is operations. So construction is really important. It's also one of the harder tabs because there's a circularity. And the whole concept of construction is there's the 3 different time periods. There's the financing time period where you're just negotiating stuff. Then there's construction where things actually happen, but you're not, there's no revenue yet. And then there's operations, so where there is revenue. So the construction time is unique to project finance, or to greenfield projects at least. So greenfield just means new projects, so you have to build it. So there's a whole construction schedule and stuff. And then one of the important concepts is this concept of sources and uses of capital. So there's how you finance things, which is either through debt or equity. And then there's the uses of it. So it's what you spend your money on. So this is almost like a balance sheet. A balance sheet is assets, which is your uses of capital, and then your liabilities and equity, which is your sources. So the sources and uses are really important in finance as like a concept. And then also for initial working capital, I think we're just going to I think someone asked me a question on it. I think I said 4 million. So just put 4 million for right now. So we're going to hard code this. Initial working capital, 4 million. And then the fees, this is how banks really make money, is on interest expense. Well, it's really the interest spread from what they borrow versus what they lend. So that's how banks make money, is the delta, the difference, the interest rate spread from what they borrow and what they lend. So interest during construction is how banks make money. And then fees, fee income. So underwriting fee and commitment fees. And then we'll go through how to do that. And then our target leverage, so the capital structure is 85% debt and 15% equity, which is pretty high. But since it's like a pretty stable project, it's not too bad. And then here's just the debt accruing, debt outstanding, and then other items in here. And then operations is pretty straightforward. It's basically how the project makes money. So it generates electricity, and then we're just kind of taking the amount of electricity it generates is volume, and then we times it by price. And then that's how we get revenue. And then the fuel expense is kind of your cost of goods sold, COGS, accounting term. And then we calculate just how much it costs for that for you to generate that energy. And then you have your OPEX, which is your operating costs, which is just how much it costs to run the plant. And then you have your fixed, and then within that OPEX, you have your variable costs, which scale to the amount of electricity generated. And you have your fixed costs, which is like just how much it costs a year to run, and then your maintenance, and then you have your operating costs, and then that's it. That's kind of like the basis of an operating entity. Some people will call it a going concern. That's the accounting terms. So let's start. So now we're going to start. Let's see what the time is at. So start overview over. That's only the time I'm talking about. So that's 8:22. Now we're going to start construction at 8:22. I'll try and go back and that's PM and use this to kind of correlate the timing to bookmark it. So I'll review one more time. Look at the email I sent you. This one, TA, whatever, session 10.5. In the bottom, there's a TA construction help. I'll even send it around again. So I'll download it and then open it up, fire it up. And then here are, I call it IKEA instructions. So it's how to do it from start to end, but it's not complete and you may not get it right, but at least there you have some instructions. So you need to do the instructions in order to break the circularity. And there is a circularity because your commitment fee and your underwriting fee are based on the size of the debt. But the size of the debt that you will draw down is based on the amount of fees. So you won't know how much debt you'll take down unless you know how much fees you have. And you won't know how many fees you'll have until you know the size of the debt. So that's a little confusing. So you have to break a circularity, and then we'll go through how to do that. So first, if you look at the instructions, it starts with the letter A. It's the first letter in the alphabet. So I guess one other step is you got to sum the entire row of E. All right, we'll go back to that one. But you start with A. So EPC and land costs. So you add land acquisition in the period before construction starts. So let's go to where A is. A is here, EPC and land costs, right? So let's go to the model, EPC and land costs right here. So I'm going to put the letter A in row A. So your EPC is engineering, procurement, and construction. Land costs are the cost to acquire the land. So the reason it starts one period before construction starts is when construction starts, that's when construction literally starts. So you need to own the land, you need to hire the people, you need to get the equipment to the place. And then so when construction starts, you could actually break ground and start construction day one of this period. So the period starts, so this period ends March 30th. And then so April 1st, you're going to start construction. So that's why you have to have all these costs ahead of the actual start of construction. All right. So that's EPC and land costs, which is right here. And then that's just linked to your construction payments and your land acquisition. And then this is all linked back to assumptions. And this is your construction payment schedule. So whatever your construction costs are, this is how much you spend in each period. So you spend, this is 17% of your construction costs in this period. So your construction costs are from your assumptions. And then your payment schedule is from your assumptions too. So you just take 17% of your total construction cost happens in that year. And then, so you sum this whole row, you notice it sums to 100. So 7% this next year, this is what you expect to spend on. And then your land acquisition costs is from your assumptions, is just in that first year. And that's how you get EPC and land costs. All right, and you just sum it to right there. And these are your uses of capital. Sources and uses, they're both two sides of the same coin. So this is what you're spending your money on. Engineering, procurement, and construction, and land costs. There we go. So next, let's go to B. So that was A, right? We did A. Now we're going to skip down to B. So B's down here. So that's initial working capital. So we're skipping all this other stuff. Interest earned construction, underwriting fees, and annual commitment fees, because this is where the circularity plays into it, and we'll come back to it. Okay? So initial working capital, it's just just make up a number. So the number we're going to use is 4 million. And all it has to do is it shows up the last period of construction. So just a tip for construction, when construction's off, everything has to be blank. So if you want to freeze the cells, a review on how to freeze cells, go to where you want the top to freeze and then the left side to freeze, and then that intersection, you go freeze panels or freeze panes under view and freeze panes, and then it'll freeze that area. So then you see that? That's cool, right? Sure. And then, so just another tip for construction, everything has to be turned off after, but it has to be dynamic because we may change the construction period. So when I grade your model, I'm going to change the construction period to see if it's dynamic and it'll flow through. That's what I'm going to do. That's part of the grading. And if it's not dynamic, you're going to have a bad time. You're going to lose points. So then, so just make initial working capital $4 million, and it appears in the last period of construction. This was letter B. A, B. And then next, let's go back to the instructions. So we did EPC and land costs. Let's check that off. We did initial working capital. Easy peasy. Next, we're doing total uses. So total uses are just down here. So let's go back to our model. This is just total uses. And it's just the sums, the simple sum of everything above it. And that's what you're spending your money on. And that's letter C. So let's make this row a lot bigger so you guys can see it. Oops. Made too big. So that's A, B, C. Cool. So total uses, again, just a simple sum. Next, target leverage. Make sure it's 85%. And so actually now we're going to go down to here. Now we're on the total sources side. So next, this is D. Make sure your target leverage is 85%. So the capital structure, the cap stack, it's 85% debt, 15% equity. That's how we're financing this project. So now you kind of see, right? Your target leverage is the components of your sources. So your debt drawdown and your equity contribution will be in a ratio of 85% debt to 15% equity. So the ratio is it's 5 2/3. So for every $1 of equity, you're going to get 5 2/3 debt. So that results in an 85% target leverage. Okay? And these are your total sources of capital. This is the money we get, which is comprised of 85% debt and 15% equity. And then what do we spend the money on? The uses. So we're spending it on EPC and land costs, interest, and fees, and initial working capital. That's what we're spending it on. Sources of capital, uses of capital. This is your allowance from your parents, and this is what you spend it on. Cool. So that's target leverage. Make sure it's 85%, and it comes from assumptions. Next, debt drawdown. So debt drawdown, so we'll do debt drawdown and equity contribution at the same time. So all it is you take your total uses. So that's what we're spending it on. So we estimated we need to spend 69 million in this period. We're going to finance that 85% debt and then 15% equity. So literally this number times that number, you get the amount of debt you need for that period. And then the remainder of that expense that you're incurring in that period will just come from equity. So that's all you're doing. Is this still recording? Very good. So that's A, B, C, D, E, and F. So does that make sense? So we're starting with our total uses, which is what we're spending on. We're spending on land costs, fees, and interest and working capital. That's what we need. So this is our budget. Oh, we're estimating 69 million. How do we pay for that 69 million? Well, we said we're going to pay 85% of it with debt. So then that's what become your total sources. And then now we're estimating we need 85% of that as debt, 59 million, literally that times that number. And then you'll see it down here too. That number times that number, 85% debt. And then just whatever's left over, the 15% is equity. That's how we're paying for the remainder of it with equity. And then that's D and F, or D, E, and F. And then now we're going down, now we're at G. And then G is just the sum. We're going down our instruction list. Just the simple sum of these two. And then so your total sources will always equal your total uses because they're just two sides of the same coin. Like you're spending money on this and then you're paying for it with this. So you can't, like, they have to equal each other. They're literally equals, they equal each other. Cool. Next, this is where it gets a little more complicated. So now we're going down to H. So H is all the way down here. So we'll do, so H is debt drawdown. So how we break the circularity is we're going to estimate how much debt we need from the bottom up and then from the top down. So the bottom up is we're literally just going to take all our uses. So we have everything, we have this whole budget of what we're going to spend money on. And then the sum of this times 85% is our bottom up estimate of how much debt we need. And then the top down is literally, we're just going to guess a number. So that's your debt facility estimate, is from assumptions, is the top down. So it's a hard-coded assumption. So I think our original one was like 400,000 or 400 million. So that's just like, all that a swag number, or you're just guessing. We're guessing it's going to cost 400 million to build this project. And then from the bottom up analysis, we're just taking our total uses, which is our expenses, and then from calculating that individually, bottom up, and then taking 85% of that, that's our debt estimate. That's the bottom up versus top down. So our debt facility estimate is down here, H. So it's all the way down here. Or sorry, our debt drawdown is down here, H. So this is H. And all that is just whatever debt we drew down in that period. So your debt drawdown equals your H equals E. Because now we're going to build that beginning of period, end of period balance thing you guys did in timing and technicals. But now we're doing it with debt. So just make H, instruction number H equal instruction number E, or letter E. These just equal each other. So that's how much debt is drawn down in that period. Cool? Next is I. So I is debt outstanding end of period. And what does that mean? It's equal to the same period debt outstanding beginning of period plus the same period debt drawdown. So just like you guys did previously, this is I right down here. It's just the sum of beginning of period plus whatever you drew down during the period. So this is just your account balance at the end of the period. So this is your account balance day one of the period. This is how much debt you incurred during the period. This is your balance at the end of the period. So say it's a credit card. This is how much you already had on the credit card in the beginning of the weekend. This is how much you spent on the weekend. And this is your credit card balance at the end of the weekend. Right? And this is just like what you guys did in timing and technical down here with this whole like beginning of period, end of period stuff. And I think it was another one, right? But the same thing with like heat rate and stuff, like improvement. It's a very similar concept. Like it's an account. We're creating an account and we're keeping track of what we're cumulatively accruing and then what's changing during that period. Cool. So that's debt outstanding, just the sum, beginning period, end of period, or beginning period plus whatever you drew down. All right. That's instruction number I. So now we got through I. Next is J. So we're jumping around. So J is all the way, where's J? I don't even know where it is. Where is it? Oh, there it is. J is all the way up here. So now it's the same thing as it's all the way up here. This is J. It's literally just equal to whoops. So it's not J. Where is J? Oh, so I guess we changed it. So sorry. Oh, no, there it is. There's J. Yeah. So J is right here. It's just literally equal to I. So this down here is this is our bottom up debt estimate. And then starting up here is our top down debt estimate. So we're going to start from the top and then work our way down and then start from the bottom and work our way up. And then we're kind of meet in the middle. And that's how we'll kind of figure out how much debt we need. And that's to break the circularity. So literally J just literally equals your debt outstanding in the period, your I, which I just went through before. So then here, I'll put a bookmarker now. So now we're at top down, that estimate, and it's 8:39. So it's been, only took 17 minutes. Cool. So then that's J. Just literally link it down there. Cool. And then let's go back to construction. So we did J. Now we're going to jump back around. Now we're going to go back and do K down here. So K, just like before, just like every other beginning period account we do. So now jumping back down here, we're going to jump around a lot in this. K is just previous periods end of period. And it's just like what you did before. Just previous periods, end of period. And remember, there's going to be like a flag or toggle here. You need a flag or toggle to turn it off back here. So just link this to a flag, your construction flag. And then it's just previous periods, end of period. Because remember how we did it with the heat rate and stuff. So let me lock these things so we could view. Just a reminder, we're going to do a lot of this beginning period, end of period stuff in this class. Just like you guys did with heat rate. Beginning period is end of period. End of period is kind of like the sum of the stuff. You know what I mean? It's a similar concept, just applied a little differently. So then that's K, just previous period, end of period. All right. And then now this is your account balance day one. Cool, right? Now we built it. So now we did K. Now we're gonna jump back up to L. So L's back up here. So now we're on L. What is L? It's still to be drawn. So all the way up here, here's L. So what is L? So we guessed, so this is the top down. So as you notice down here, this is your bottom up. We took what our budget is of what we think we're going to spend, our total uses, and then how we're going to pay for that with 85% debt. That's your debt drawdown. This is your bottom up estimation of how much debt you're going to use. And this is our bottom up. So we just take whatever 85% of our total uses, and then we sum it up, take a cumulative amount, which is your total, your debt outstanding in a period. And that's kind of how we build from the bottom up our debt estimate. Cool, right? And now the top down's different. We took a swag number. We just straight up guessed 400 million. So this is that fixed number, 400 million. And then every time we take our actual amount of debt we use in that period, and we subtract it from there. And then that's where you get your still to be drawn. So still to be drawn just means how much debt is left over of your top down estimate, your swag number, is how much is left over versus what you actually took down that period. And then so you notice at the very end, it's 74 million. That means we overestimated it by 74 million. And you don't want to overestimate, because if you overestimate, you're going to be paying fees on that extra debt, and you don't want to pay unnecessary fees. So eventually we'll get this number to zero, and that's part of the process of breaking the circularity and stuff. So I'll reiterate that. This is just your debt drawdown, which is how much debt we've actually used in that period based on your construction schedule and all this other stuff, minus our swag number, the number we guessed that we think we need, and then whatever's left over, that's just still to be drawn. And then eventually it'll get to zero. So you could underestimate, and then we won't have enough numbers. So say we put in our assumptions here, say we put 300 million. And you go to your construction tab. And now you notice it's zero too early. Like it just breaks off too early. So that's also, so you can see that we're 23 million too short. So it's just part of the, so it's a process. So you gotta, at the very end, we'll see how it is. So that's L. Still to be drawn. One more time, just whatever, it's literally linked from below here. Take that number. It's the cumulative debt you've taken out minus the total debt you think we were going to use, and then that's still to be drawn. That's just whatever's left over. So we did L, and we're going to leave that there. Next, we're going to do interest. So the question is, why don't we just add all our actual debt? So the problem is, if we add all our actual debt, there's a circularity. So your total debt is based off EPC and land costs, interest during construction, and then your fees, and then initial working capital. But your fees and interest are based off your total debt. So if you just add it, if you just add it all up, there's a circularity, and you can't calculate a number that calculates on itself. Does that make sense? So we're doing the top down. So you have this hard-coded number here, which will eventually equal this number. And then this is where you'll calculate your fees, your interest and expenses, or your interest and your, or I guess just your fees. And that's how you don't break the circularity. It kind of like, we'll go through it and it'll make more sense. So we're still in the middle of it. So we're going to stop here. Now we're going to stop our debt, our top down, and then we're going to jump down to interest. So interest is down here, and interest is M. So we're going to jump down here, and this is all for a reason. This is why you have to do it in order. Otherwise, it gets all jumbled up, and it won't work at the end. It's like a recipe, like a cake recipe. If you don't do it in order, it gets jacked up. I don't know. I don't make cakes, so maybe that's what happens. So you go to M, down here, debt interest. So debt interest, it's right now we have it at 9% from our assumptions. You have to de-annualize it. Don't forget to de-annualize it. So you got it's in quarters during construction, which is different during operations. It's in semesters. So you have to take it and de-annualize it to the period. So you take 9%, which is your annual interest, or whatever it is. It's like 8.5, sorry. And then you de-annualize it. So you divide it by 4 and you get this number, right? This is M. So next is N, interest during construction. So interest during construction is really interesting because interest is backwards looking. So this is interest during construction N. So your first period, so the first period you accrue debt, you don't owe interest on it because it's backwards looking, because you're still accruing it. So it's just like your credit card payments or your student loans. You're not paying interest on your student loans for this semester because you're still drawing down on that debt. So after this semester is over, you'll start accruing interest on your student loans. So you pay interest historically on previous items. So interest is it's a backwards looking fee. So interest takes whatever debt outstanding you had previously, and you owe a fee on what you took down. And then, so next semester, you're going to take down more interest. You're going to take down more debt, a lot of debt. But you're not going to pay interest on that debt you're taking down yet for that semester, but you'll be accruing interest on the debt from the previous semester. And then when that semester is over, you'll owe interest on both semesters' debt. So that's kind of how interest works. It's historical looking, it's backwards looking. So that's why when you do interest during construction, you take previous periods end a period, or you could take current periods beginning a period. So whatever you owe day one in debt, you owe 213 basis points. You owe 213 basis points of interest on this number or this number, whatever number you want to link to. And that's your account balance on day 0 or day 1 of this period. You owe interest on that. So this is like your minimum payment on your credit card. This is what you owe. This is the debt you accrue that you owe. And then all interest during construction is that number times either debt outstanding end of period, previous period, or you could do debt outstanding beginning of period. What a lot of people do is they'll put it on your current debt outstanding end of period, and then look, oh snap, it's a circular reference. You can't do that because it's circularity, and then you end up with this thing because your size of your debt for this period, so you capitalize your interest into your debt. And so it's weird, as during construction, this is why construction loans are so risky, is that you're not paying interest. That interest is actually going back into your principal, and then you're owing interest on interest. So in certain countries like Colombia, this is called usury in certain countries, and it's actually illegal in certain countries. But in America, we're capitalists and we get shit done. And this is how stuff gets done in risky projects, is you're actually paying interest on interest, aka usury, which is actually a sin in certain religions and illegal in certain countries. But so you're paying interest on this interest. So that's why there's a circular reference. So you have to, your interest is due not on your current period debt outstanding end of period, your account balance either beginning a period or your previous period's end of period. So you pay it on what you already had. Because now and then whatever interest you owe, we're then capitalizing into your debt amount. And then you're owing interest on interest. That's just the way it works for construction loans, because they're very risky. So it's weird. You're taking down loans to then pay your own interest. So it's like, I mean, if you look at your student loans, this is kind of how it works too. So like, this will help you pay your student loans off or not pay them off. So this is the confusing part with interest. Just when you do it, just be careful and follow the instructions like step by step and you'll get it. So that was N. So now O. So that was N. And then what's O? So then O is all the way up here. So this is what I'm talking about, where we literally take whatever interest we calculated that was previously owed. So I'm going to trace dependence. And then now we're going back up here. Boom, this is O, interest during construction. So this is part of our expenses. So this is interest expense. So we're not making any money because it's still in construction, but we're accumulating all these expenses. So these are your construction and land expenses. Here's your interest expense. And then here's your like financing fees. And then your working capital. So you have to finance all your expenses, including interest, which is not intuitive. So we owe that much interest that period, and then so we got to take out that much more debt to pay for the debt that we took out. So it's like taking one credit card to pay for another credit card. Cool. And the only reason they do this is because these are risky projects. Like if construction goes, like it's just the way to convince banks to lend to these things. So then that's O. Now we're going to do the fees. So now this is where everything comes together. So now we'll do underwriting fee. So underwriting fee is also known as like a closing fee. And it happens once before construction starts. So this is kind of like the fee you pay the bank. So the bank's working, and during the financing time, but if you go back to time, you're like wondering like, what's the deal with this financing period, right? So this, if you work in a bank or in a working finance, this is when you're working, like working in Excel models and negotiating all the documents and all that stuff. So the bank's actually working on putting everything together. And so they want a fee when they're done on what they did. And so here, this is 75 bips, 75 basis points, 0.75%. 1 basis point is 0.01%. So that's what, usually in percentages, people talk in basis points. So it's 75 bips on the entirety of what they're underwriting, which is 300. So right now, so you can't calculate off your bottom up, because your bottom up is the sum of all your expenses, and your underwriting fee is based on the total debt, which is 85% of your total expenses. So this is where we break the circularity. So now we're estimating 75 bips on our top-down estimate, which is just a hard-coded number from the assumptions. This is our swag number that we're just guessing. So what if you're like, hey man, that's messed up. Why don't I just use the total sum? So let's link it to here. This is the sum of your debt drawdown of your bottom up. What happens? It breaks because you can't calculate. The fees are calculated on your total debt. Well, your total debt is inclusive of your fees. So it's a circular reference. So we break that circular reference and then look at it. And Excel will crash and you'll lose your work if you do circle references. So the way to break the reference is we link it to a hard-coded number, which is here. It breaks it, and then we're going to change this number multiple times until it equals the actual number, and that's how we break it, and we'll get to that in a second. So right now we're overestimating our fees because we're guessing 400 million is what we need. So literally underwriting fee, 75 basis points, 0.75%, 0.75%, not 0.75, whatever. It happens before the period before construction, the last period of financing period, and right there, boom. That is P. Next, after P, we go to commitment fee, which is Q. So Q is almost like reverse interest. So interest is a fee that you pay on debt that you drawn down. Commitment fee is a fee you pay on debt you haven't taken down. So the bank is giving you a line of credit. We're estimating it at 400 million. you're paying interest on whatever you've taken down. So it's a fee on money borrowed. Now you're going to pay a fee on money unborrowed because there's a cost for the bank. It's a contingent liability on the bank. And so the bank has to set aside capital reserves against that contingent liability, this line of credit, this term loan. And so they need and then plus there's all this operational work to disperse this money. And so this is the fee to keep that line of credit open. Then you'll see that the very end of the last tab, the regulatory return, the bank return on regulatory capital. This is the ROE metric. So if you ever see when banks like the performance of banks, they always report as an ROE, return on equity, and this is what it is. So that you can see the regulatory cost, and then you see the fees income against it. So that's what they're all trying to offset is their own side. So the annual commitment fee, it's 45 bips, 40.45% per year, or 4.4% total. So, or per year. So you have to, don't forget, you have to de-annualize it. That's an annual number. Annual number. You have to de-annualize it. De-annualize it. So then the amount that's owed, so then you see this debt outstanding. Oh, no, sorry, still to be drawn. So this is why we have still to be drawn. This is how much of the line of credit you have open. So like, if you guys ever had to pay like an annual fee on your credit card, like $100 every year for your credit card. This is kind of what it is. It's a fee for the bank to keep your line of credit open, but you're only paying on what you haven't drawn down on they call it dry powder in the private equity world. So it's the amount of what you have. So, and it's backwards looking too. So it's literally reverse interest. Interest is a fee on money you borrowed. Commitment fee is a fee on money you haven't borrowed yet. So you look at it, it's previous period, still to be drawn, times a de-annualized annual commitment fee. And then boom, that's what it is. And remember, your still to be drawn is this whatever you've taken down minus your swag number, this top line number that we guessed. So that's how it breaks the circularity, is it's deriving from this hard-coded number, not from the derived number from the bottom up. So that's how you break, that's it. So that's Q. Cool. So now you have everything set up. So, okay, everything's set up, but it looks like we guessed $74 million over. Like, you don't want to guess too much money because then you're paying more in fees than you need. So the way to break the circularity, it's really interesting. So we're going to go back to assumptions. And just like the instructions say, you're going to change, this is right here, Z and X. You're going to change your debt facility estimate to match your debt drawdown repeatedly until they match each other. So this is Z and that's X. So this is the hard-coded number. So all our fees are based on a $400 million cost basis, or like loan guess. But really, according to our expenses budget, taking all our expenses, our total uses of capital, 85% of that, what our budget, we're like, hey man, I'm guessing we only need 325 million. So we take that number, copy and paste it up here. So now we're going to reset our fee basis to 325. Boom. And then it changed our budget, our drawdown number, which is our bottom up. Because now instead of putting the fees at 400 million, we put the fees at 325, so it lowered our fees. So now the difference is only 1.3 million. So then you just copy and paste it again, And then now it's only $24,000 difference. So why is there still a difference? So what are you saying? Why is our debt drawdown number changing when I change this number? Because our debt drawdown number is our construction expenses plus the fees. And the fees are based off this number. So when we change this number changes too. And then you keep changing it until they equal each other. So copy and paste, and then copy, and then one more time just to see what happens. And then boom. Now it equals each other. And now our top down number equals our bottom up number. And then so we right size the fees to our, now this is what you call it, right sizing the debt. We have the exact debt we need to cover our fees and our expenses. Mind blown, right? It works. Okay, this is like really technical stuff. And then if you follow the instructions carefully, you can do it too. But it's confusing because it's just confusing. So just rewatch the video multiple times. So then let's see where we're at now. So it's 9:03 and construction. But just one more time, why when I change this hard code number, this number changes? Because this number is just the sum. Your debt drawdown is just the sum of your expenses, which is your total uses, which is just your EPC, land costs, and interest. So when you change your fee amount, when you change your fee basis, which is this debt facility estimate, your fee number changes. So so you can see it right here. So let's just make this 350 million again. See this number changes? This is your debt drawdown. This is your bottom up. You changed it back, and it's because your fee amount will go up or down based on this number, and then the size of your debt will go up or down because it's 85% of whatever your expenses are. So your fees are part of your expenses. You're tweaking your fees. You're changing what your fees are calculated off of by using your debt facility estimate, and then that changes. That flows downstream to your total uses, but then your bottom up is 85% of your total uses. Then there's another layer. Your interest during construction is your backwards looking 85% of your total uses, aka your debt drawdown. So changing one of these numbers, so changing your fee amount then changes how much debt you draw down, which then changes how much interest you owe. So that's why you have to keep iterating it. You can almost do like a solver until it optimizes to the right point. So that's why it's confusing. Because when you change your estimate, it changes your fees. When you change your fees, it changes your uses. When it changes your uses, it changes your debt drawdown. Because you're paying for your uses, your expenses with 85% debt. And then when you change your debt drawdown, it changes your interest, your next period's interest. So you change any of these numbers, the whole thing's going to change. So that's why you have to keep iterating until they optimize each other. So that's construction. So rewatch this video. You're not going to get it the first time. The constructions are like useful, but it's still confusing conceptually. So just with the instructions and the video, just iterate multiple times. And then now operations are just a lot easier. Operations aren't as much of like a complicated like mind fuck. This is like straightforward stuff. So in operations, it doesn't start till operations, obviously. So you have your operations flag, which comes from your time and technical. So really your time and technical is like I don't know if you guys taken like biology classes, but you have like proteins that like sequence your regulate your body. And then so this is just like the proteins in your body, like the genes that are just regulating your body's function. So like this is turning on. So this all comes from time and technical. It just turns on operations. So you pull it from time and technical and it turns on everything in operations. When it's off, everything in operations is off. And the same thing with construction. When you have your construction flags, construction start, flag on, and then here's your construction timeline. everything before it and everything after it turns off. So it regulates your model. This is kind of like your how it's like your clock. It's the clock for the model. So starting in operations, pull in your operational flag from your time and technical, and then everything is going to be kind of linked to it. So everything before it turns off, everything like all the calculations turn off and on. So energy generated is all from time and technical. So time and technical energy generated, really it's just your price. So your energy price, you have to remember, is based in 2017 dollars. So notice also during operations, it's semester, you're switching from, your time periods are changing from quarters to semesters, to half years. So you take your energy price in 2017 dollars, and then you times it by your end of period US inflation escalator, and you're inflating the price. You're taking this real price and you're turning it nominal. You guys are getting degrees in economics. You should know the difference between real and nominal. So you inflate it to future value by incorporating inflation into this real number, using your US escalation, inflation escalator end of period, and that's your price. That's your price, and that's your estimate of what the energy price will be in 2021 using the energy price in 2017. And then your revenue is just straight up price times volume. So you have your price times volume, which is your energy generated. And then boom, that's just your revenue. It's straightforward. Same thing. So fuel costs, this one's a little different. Jace in his slide has the way to do gas price. So let's keep track. So it's on 908. Now we're on prices. So gas price, you're gonna have to pull from the slides, and it's like some type of hard-coded formula. Like some type of conversion between Bonnie Light, which is just the name for Nigerian crude oil. I think Bonnie is some type of port in Nigeria, and they call it Bonnie Light. And light is just the type of gasoline or oil. So there's heavy crude, like the tar sands are heavy, or like heavy sour. So heavy versus light is just, I guess, like the thickness of the oil, and then sour versus sweet is just the amount of like sulfur in it. So Bonnie Light is just light, sweet crude. So it's very like easy to process. There's not a lot of like stuff in it. And so that means there's like low asphalt. Like asphalt is a distillate of oil. So there's less asphalt in there. Like literally tar sands are heavy. So I call them heavy oil because there's a lot of crap in it. So a lot of the refineries in the US are optimized for Bonnie Light because it's where we imported a lot of our oil before the shale boom. FYI, guys. Some cool facts. So then you have your operations flag. This is your escalator. Notice there's a difference. End of period versus average, because really you're getting paid like at the end of the period for prices, like price settlements, and then you're kind of buying throughout the period. So it's just like a nuance. Just be careful if you're playing average versus end of period for your inflation. And I think it's also like an accounting convention. But don't worry about that. That's the way you translate accounting rules too. If you take the CFA, you'll learn about it. Or I guess if you took corporate finance, it's like the current method versus the temporal method and stuff for converting between currencies. So it's a similar thing here, but don't worry about it. Here you're just taking your inflation escalator. You have your gas price from the special calculation from the slide, and then so you have to inflate Bonnie Light. So don't forget to, so these numbers I'm going to highlight in orange are these are nominal numbers you have to inflate. I don't know if that's even how you spell it. So you inflate. So the problem, what a lot of people do is they'll link too many items to inflation, and then so you're double inflating numbers. So you only really have to do one per subcalculation. Anyways, yeah. So then you get your barrel, you inflate it, you convert it to gas price at 2017 or at nominal numbers, and then you have your fuel consumption, which is from time and technical, and then you basically just take how much fuel you use times how much it costs. You get your fuel expense, and this is what you call in accounting world COGS, cost of goods sold. So this is your revenues, and this is your cost of goods sold, aka your fuel expense, and then after this, you kind of get your gross profit, but that's different. And then now we go down to operating costs. Same thing, you have your flag. And then here you have your maintenance flag. And then you have your US escalator, which is average, not average of the period. Then you have your variable cost here, which is it costs for every megawatt in 2017 dollars, it costs $2.05 million to run it. Like this is just your operational cost, just your whatever it is, so your operation and maintenance, or your O&M, just like salaries for all your people who work there, like health benefits, literally like parking cones, just whatever you need to run a facility from a variable point of view, that's what it costs. So that's what the fixed and variable are. It's just literally just operating stuff. And most of the time it's salaries and like parts. So then here's your next one. So then you take your variable costs, and then here's your energy generated, because the more energy you generate, the higher cost it's going to be, because that's going to be the operation and maintenance, like your daily operation and maintenance on like the parts and stuff. And then here's your variable cost. This is literally that times how much energy you generated. And then here is this is where you inflate it. 2017, you inflate that number. You take that number as a calculation, and then down here you inflate it based on that number. Fixed is just the same thing. There's a fixed cost to run it every year, and then you have to also don't forget to deannualize that. It's an annual number. It's 75 per year, so deannualize it, and then you inflate it. And then maintenance, this is your maintenance flag. So this is kind of like your major maintenance that you have to do every, what did we say? It was like 5 periods or 6 periods or whatever it is. You have this big maintenance event. So then it costs that major maintenance event. It's stuff like replacing batteries or, like parts and stuff. And you shut it down and do like inspections. So this is like your daily inspections. This is like your big inspections every year. So then you just take that number whenever the maintenance flag is, this triggers off that flag, and it turns on, and then you just inflate that number to the nominal amount. And your operating costs is just the sum of your fuel expense and then your variable, fixed, and maintenance costs. So really, it's just the sum. It's the sum of. The sum of I'm going to put it in green. So it's the sum of these numbers is your total operating cost. And that's the cost to run the plant. It's the fuel cost and then the operating costs, your variable, fixed, and maintenance. So you'll actually see in other companies that you'll see fuel expense as like cost of goods sold, and you'll see gross profit, and then gross profit. From there you have OPEX, and then after OPEX you have this operating profit. And sometimes they call this EBITDA, but that's a whole other story. Because then there's other expenses too, like CapEx, and there's all this accounting stuff that's all outside of this. Cool, guys, that's it. There's the video. I'll send around the instructions. The instructions are really important. I mean, they're really helpful. Remember, they're IKEA instructions, so they're only going to get you like 75% of the way. just like how the key instructions are. Like you go through and it's like, did I read all of it? Like, is it built? And it's like, no, you kind of have to infer in between. So use this and then the video, and then you guys have 2 weeks. So I think the next TA session, so I'm not hosting one next week, so that should give you guys enough time to watch the video, use the instructions, kind of put pen to paper and, you know, try in this class and put things in Excel, use effort, elbow grease, and then come up with questions. You guys could just fire questions to me, whatever you have. And then I'll host a couple I think I'll host a TA session the 17th, or actually, no, sorry, the 19th and then the 22nd. I think I'll host 2 official TA sessions those days where we could just go over high-level questions. And I could also go over the model again on the 19th and 22nd. And then I could host whatever ad hoc, like Q&As or whatever, or whatever, and we could just figure it out. Whatever you guys need, like send me questions, I'll answer your questions. Check out the TA website. Check out the videos. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm just kidding. You don't have to do that. But you always hear those YouTube guys saying that. That's yeah. Send me whenever you guys have a question. Just send it to me, and I'll answer, and I'll post it to the site. And so, if one person has a question, I'm sure other people have similar questions. So if you go on the TA site, I haven't updated it to show. Let's find it. I don't even know where's the TA site. So here, I'll go back to the TA site. So on the TA site, there are Q&As for like assignment 2. I'll change it to so it shows assignment 2. But if you click assignment 2, there's a bunch of Q&As and blog posts on how to do things and stuff, like questions. Does annual fee commitment start when? What does sources mean? Like, and then there's just a bunch of other resources that you guys could use, like chain to inflation and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, this is just help. So like, there's a lot of resources out there for you guys to kind of figure it out on your own. Because really, Excel, it's a technical skill, and you kind of just have to practice it. It's like learning a violin. Or like, I can only do so much. Like, I can only just like be there and help you guys out. But really, it's you practicing that violin is going to get yourself better. Okay. Any like one-off questions or any type of clarifications or questions about grading or other things? Oh yeah, I'll go over one more thing before I'm done. So now is it 9:20? So now I'll go over how to do the extract one more time. So you guys noticed on this one, there's no assumptions. So the way to do the extract for this one is just like before, create the new tab, and then construction or whatever it's called, right? Yeah, the construction tab. Construction. Remember, put your names up here. So last name, first name. So this is your construction tab. And then just take, so just go equals sum, and just sum the entire row. And then you have the whole row summed, and just drag down. So, or you could take it from here. One of these, so if you take construction payments, it already sums the whole row for you, right? And just take that, and just drag it up, and just drag it down. And then you have a whole row summed, right? And then just click this on E, copy, go to the extract, sorry, and then go from A to E, just like we did before, copy, Click that, right click, special paste, for values and source formatting, the paintbrush with the numbers, and then boom, paste that. And then we're going to start a new tab, and this is your operations tab. And then you're going to go to your operations tab and just take, like you can do whatever you want. Like this revenues tab sums the whole row anyways. So don't forget last name, first name. Take this or sum the whole row and just drag up, just drag down. We summed all the rows. Then click A through E. Right, copy. Now we're going to the extract. Just click A, right click, special paste, numbers and value source formatting, and then boom. And then that's how you do the extract for this class. This is the grain extract. And then you guys remember how to name it. We're going to go over how to name it one more time. And like, of course, this is like pretty pedantic and like, but once you work in finance, so much of it is just like formatting and making things look nice. So let's see. I think I sent you guys how to name it, right? So the naming convention. So this is how we do, I'll send this out again. The naming convention is last name dot first name dot assignment number dot extract for the extract, and then last name dot first name dot assignment dot the number and then model. So for the extract, it's going to look like this: assignment number 2. So let's save the extract just so you guys see it end to end. File, save as. We'll save it in my CFA folder. It's not passionate. See, Excel just sucks. Anyways, you guys know how to save. Yeah, there we go. And then last name dot first name dot assignment 2 assignment dot 2 extract. Save. And then the same thing with the model. And I'll resend this out again. And then you know how the email is supposed to look: to taprojectfin@gmail, CC Jace's email, CC my work email, and the title of the email is last name, first name, and then the assignment number 2. And then you attach the 2 Excel files, and then that's how we follow instructions. Cool. And then that's it. So any other questions? Any questions? So 9:25 we're done. Any questions? No questions. So I'll stop and then all this video is going to get posted, and you guys can watch the video, and then let me know if the sound is good or bad or anything else like that. All right, thanks, guys.